Pam Anderson, a Republican who acknowledged that Joe Biden was legitimately elected in 2020, won Colorado's Republican Secretary of State primary Tuesday night, defeating an election skeptic who pushed the lie that the contest had been stolen from former President Donald Trump. The Associated Press called the race for Anderson, who easily knocked off Tina Peters, the Mesa County clerk who was indicted last year on charges that she allowed someone to improperly access and download data from election machines as she sought to prove that widespread fraud had occurred in the state's 2020 presidential election. Anderson, by contrast, bluntly stated that the 2020 election was legitimate in a recent interview with the Colorado Sun, in which she acknowledged that Biden had won the presidency. No, Anderson said when asked if she believed the race had been stolen from Trump. Here in Colorado we have independent, verifiable paper ballot audits that have found no evidence that the outcome was incorrect. Anderson will now face Democratic Secretary of State Jenna Griswold in November's general election. Her victory is the second major win for a Republican who has defended the legitimacy of the 2020 election in a GOP Secretary of State primary, after Georgia incumbent Brad Raffensperger, R., easily defeated a Trump-endorsed primary challenger in May. It also ensures that elections in a key swing state will not be overseen by an election denier. Peters was no ordinary skeptic. She was barred from overseeing local elections in Mesa County in 2021 and has similarly been banned from running the county's elections this year. In March 2021, a grand jury indicted Peters on 7 felony charges related to elections. Prosecutors alleged that Peters committed identity theft and other crimes after she used a Colorado voter's name to provide someone else access to Mesa County's voting machines, allowing them to copy data from the electoral system. Peters and her deputy, prosecutors said, later shared that information, as well as passwords to election files, with conspiracy theorists who promoted the idea that the 2020 election had been stolen from former Trump. Had she won, Peters would have joined a number of GOP election deniers who have won primaries as they seek to take over the American electoral system. Jim Marchant, a former state lawmaker who has claimed the 2020 election was rigged, won Nevada's Secretary of State primary earlier this month. Pennsylvania State Senator Doug Mastriano, who attempted to overturn the results of the election in his state, this spring won the GOP gubernatorial nomination, and would have the power to appoint a Secretary of State should he win the general election this fall. Election deniers are also seeking, and may be likely to win, GOP Secretary of State nominations in Arizona, Michigan, and Minnesota, which will hold primaries later this year. The nation can expect these candidates, if elected, to suppress the vote, create security breaches, push out lies, and further destabilize American elections, Griswold, the chairwoman of the Democratic Association of Secretaries of State, a party campaign arm, said. We cannot allow election deniers to oversee the nation's elections. That's why democracy is at code red right now. Peters has claimed the indictment is a politically motivated effort to keep her from investigating claims of fraud in Colorado's election, during which there were no credible reports or findings of widespread irregularities. Biden won the state by roughly 14 points and nearly 500,000 votes. "I will never plead guilty because I've committed no crime," she told the Colorado Sun. "This is a political maneuver to color the minds of the voters to keep me out of the Secretary of State's office." Peters was not the only election denier seeking office in Colorado, where numerous Republican candidates in local county clerk races have questioned the results of the 2020 election. That includes Mesa County, where a Republican conspiracy theorist squared off Tuesday night with another candidate who has acknowledged that the 2020 race was free of the fraud Trump and Peters have baselessly said occurred. That election denier appears to have lost as well.